stand right in front of it. I'll stand right in front of
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Let's welcome the star of our website, Les Collegian, Jacob Tyler Advertising.
Hey guys. Good morning. No applause necessary. I haven't had my coffee yet, so I may stutter a little bit this morning. I'm going to keep this really informal for you guys, and I just really want to talk a little bit about what I do, who I am, what my company is, and kind of how we got here. You guys know what a brand is? You understand what a brand is? Let me ask you a question. Is anyone here loyal to any specific brand? Can someone name a specific brand you might be loyal to? Go ahead. Intel. Okay. That's one I don't hear very often. Any other ones? Okay, so mine would be Apple, right? It doesn't matter. Right. Anybody who's a programmer probably does not say that. They're not in the Apple realm. But if you offered me a free Samsung phone or the best PC for free or whatever, I would say no. I don't care if it's better. I don't care what it does or different. But for me, because I'm a designer and I've been that pretty much my whole life, and Apple was the first with Photoshop and all that, and then they've completely done a lot of great and really awesome products, I became an Apple loyalist. So there's differences between brand. There's brand recognition, brand equity, and brand loyalty. So let's talk about what that really means and how I got here and what I do. So my company is Jacob Tyler, and I'll give you some quick background. Every brand has a story of how they got started. So my story is I was a designer, and in the mid-90s, I met some awesome engineers. I had got fired from my job, and I was getting ready to go try to find a bartending position so I could make some money. I just bought a house. I didn't know how I was going to pay for it. And I met some engineers, and they said, we need a website. And I was like, well, what's that? And they said, well, we're going to show you what it is, but we need you to design it. And I said, okay, I can do that, I guess. I don't know how to design a website, but I'll try to figure it out, because I'm a designer. So they're like, we're going to teach you how to program it, and if you do it right, we want you to keep doing it for us. So inadvertently, they were basically having me become a web designer, and I didn't really understand it. So they taught me how to program, and I got really good at it. I loved programming, actually. I really picked it up. I loved being like a super sleuth. Like, you could find one piece of code that made something not work, and then all of a sudden everything worked, and I had that immediate gratification of making it happen. So I started programming websites, and that made me really valuable back in the mid to late 90s when it had just started coming out, because I could design and program. So I ended up getting a really great job as a creative director at a pretty large agency, overseeing the building of websites. One of my clients, Intel. I did Madison Square Garden choice seats for Intel. AOL, I did fantasy baseball. Qualcomm, I did the QWBS division. I did Gateway, technical support. I had all these really big clients that I got my chops under. I'm working with these from a big agency perspective. And so I said, well, I'm really cool. I'm just going to go on my own and do this. And I was getting headhunted and by other companies. And so I was like, all right, well, I'm going to go on my own. And I just was working in my underwear in my bedroom for about 6 years. And I didn't want big companies to know that I was faking it, that I wasn't really having an office. So I would say, I'll just come to you. I'll fly wherever you are, and I'll work for you there. So I would go to New York a lot. And my company at the time, I had named it Vivid Commerce. Why? I was getting headhunted, as I said, and the headhunters, those are people that find you really good jobs. They wanted to see a portfolio. And I would tell them to just go to the website. So like, no, you got to put it all on one site. I'm like, okay, so I said Vivid Commerce, Clear Commerce, okay, whatever. I don't really care. But I started really enjoying just doing it over and over again. And I was traveling all the time. And I went to New York, and I had a lot of clients there. And I would stay for weeks at a time. But I was perpetually unprepared for my trips. I never brought enough clothes. I was staying with friends on floors. I was telling the companies that I was just pay for my own hotel room so they wouldn't have to worry about it, but I couldn't afford it. So I was just staying with my friends on the Upper East Side and taking the train in the morning. And I get off the train And I have my dirty clothes from the last night on because I was out of clothes, and I would stop at Kenneth Cole. There was a Kenneth Cole in Grand Central Station in um, in New York on 40th Street. So I would get there at 8 in the morning. They opened at 8. That's the great thing about New York. Everything opens like really early and stays open really late. But I would get new clothes. I would pick a tie and a shirt. I wear a shirt and tie to this office. And I would go there and I would get a shirt and tie. I would go out, get my Starbucks, go to the office. That was it. Well, I did this so many times that the people in Kenneth Cole started to recognize me. And they would have outfits waiting for me. So I'd have 3 different outfits I could choose from. And they would know me by name. And it wasn't like the clothes weren't, like I wasn't getting jacked on the price. Like I wasn't paying tons of money. It was just reasonable. And I felt like girls would like me when I walked down the street wearing these clothes. I thought I looked good. So that experience was a great experience. So when my son was born, his name is Jacob Tyler, I rebranded my company to Jacob Tyler, and I said, Jacob Tyler is going to be the Kenneth Cole of design. That is going to be the core purpose of the brand, or the name of the brand, and the core purpose based on what my experience was with Kenneth Cole is you're going to feel good, you're going to look good, and it's going to be a great value. And so as I am doing anything for my company as a brand, that's what I want to try to do. Now, is that always possible? Sometimes it's difficult. And do I have clients and people that are pissed at me? Yes. I don't always provide the best experience because we screw up something, or make mistakes. Maybe I'm not always the best value, but I try. But ultimately, that's what I'm shooting for as a brand. And so every brand has to live up to what their belief is and their core promise. Let me ask you guys a quick question. If your parents said, we want to take you shopping and we're giving you 2 choices, you can only have these 2 choices. And this is going to be interesting. I've never asked this to a high school crowd, so this is going to be interesting. If your only 2 places you could buy clothes today are Walmart or Target, how many people would choose Walmart? Okay, 1 person. How many people would choose Target? Okay, the whole place, pretty much. So why do you think that is? Do you think the clothes are better at Target? Like, are they better quality? Go ahead. Better brand perception. That's a great statement, and that's possible. Any other potential reasons? Okay, so that's good merchandising for men, at least. So I think part of it is Target made a very calculated decision in their advertising. And I don't know if you recognize it, it might be subliminal. But when you watch a commercial for Target, what do you see? You see it's really, they have good music, usually. It's kind of very hip and trendy looking. They have models that are walking around in good looking clothes and or showing off certain types of products. But they're always kind of hip, loud, and they end with the big Target, and you know what it is, right? But when you see a Walmart commercial, it's a little different. It's more focused on price. It's the rollback, right? Or you're seeing how maybe they're helping the community. It's a different pitch. So Target made a very calculated decision to market in a more hip and different way and not focus as much on how low the price is, because that's perceived and known in that area. So go ahead. Yeah. I don't think so. I mean, That's a good question. I haven't seen that specific sign because every Walmart I've seen, the sign's been huge. So maybe they were doing construction on a new sign. I don't know. But I mean, obviously, the goal in retail is to make the competition is how much money can I make per square foot, right, in a store, and because that's what they're paying for their rent. But Walmart has done. Their goal is to say, we've got the lowest prices, so come shop with us for the lowest price periods. It doesn't matter what it is. I can assure you that the clothes in Target are the exact same as Walmart. They're all coming out of China. They're all whatever, the same brands, with the exception of when Target may have an exclusive with a specific designer, like Massimo or something like that, where they say, okay, we're going to hire this very specific designer, and they're going to get a leg up in that capacity. So really, it's just perception. That same $10 shirt or $12 shirt or T-shirt that's got, whatever logo on it, a Batman logo or whatever it is, they're licensed products and they're go to the same through the same thing. So it doesn't matter where you get it. You can also spend $50 for that shirt at Tilly's. It doesn't matter. It's just how they're marketed and priced. So with brands, what I do is companies come to me to help them brand a product, a service, or company to create a new perception for them, or change the perception, or maybe market a new product. Like, I wish Apple would come to me, but they didn't. But like, we want to market a new iPhone. Okay, well, we would figure out who are the target market for that product, what resonates with that target market, what makes them want to buy it, what makes them become a loyalist and spread the viral word of the product. Like, so if you're an Intel fan, you might tell all your friends about Intel and why Intel is so great and why that's so awesome, and to buy it and push them towards it. That's what we're trying to essentially do. So how I ended up here in this classroom is that happened to me with this school. So this school was Coleman beforehand, and it had an okay reputation, but as teachers and as educators, they were trying to make a difference and have a better perception of the school, but also focus more on entrepreneurship and technology, which when I was interviewed, because just like everybody, you compete to win. I was known because I had done another site for one of the gentlemen on the board, and so I was interviewed to do it. And one of the things for me is I really believe in this. So that helps when you're doing something you believe in. I believe in entrepreneurship. I believe in focus on technology as we're moving forward in what we're doing, because I'm a member of the Entrepreneurs Organization in San Diego. As I was coming up and doing this and building my company, I never had a mentor. And I've lost tons of money and made almost every possible mistake you can running a business. Every single mistake I've made it. In fact, I taught a class at UCSD one day on the top 10 things to not grow your business. Because that, as humans, we're going to make mistakes. And I can also tell you, I'm 47 now, so I'm super old. When I was starting in 30, I thought I knew everything. And I really thought that I was the man and I could make this happen and do it all on my own. But I could not. And it was really, as I get into the Entrepreneurs Organization and I sit with guys that have businesses like mine, or are more successful or less successful, it doesn't matter, or have more employees, less employees, it doesn't matter. I learn so much every day about how things can become different, and I can make things better for my clients, my employees, how to create cultures in business. There's so many facets in building your entrepreneur, your journey as an entrepreneur. And so, essentially with this school, we were tasked to say, okay, well, we want to change our brand perception. To who? Well, the students, but really the parents, right? Because the parents ultimately say, hey, student, you're going to come and we would like you to go to this school. Well, and you'll look at it and you may say, yes, I want to, or no, I don't. So it has to appeal to you guys as well. But ultimately, we want to show the parents that, hey, we've got great teachers, a great curriculum. It's a great mission, right? A great mission to educate at a very close level with each student individually and teach things that other schools are not teaching. So how do we do that? Well, obviously, internally, you have to have a great curriculum, great teachers, and all that jazz. But ultimately, my job as the brand guy, as the guy who's showing the world what you look like, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter if you had a terrible curriculum or terrible teachers. I have to figure out a way to make it feel like you're good, and you guys would have to work through that internally. Luckily for me, you guys are okay, so that's not that much of a challenge. But we had to create a new name for the school and a new look for the school to change the reputation and remove Coleman from the scenario and set the new brand. Now, we helped naming with the company, but we did not come up with the name. That came from, I don't know, I think it was Tom or Charles or somebody. Tom came up with the final name, and when he said it, it was one of those eureka moments where you just go, oh, that makes sense. Get set for college. Get set for growth. There's so many ways to use that term. Then we start to say, okay, well, how do we develop the logo? So we developed the logo in the 3 different letters. We came up with the color palette. It ended up, I know you guys have seen the website, which looks like this. So Ready, Set, Soar, and you have the ability to enroll. This is called a call to action on the website. And it's obviously huge in 2 areas because we want people to do it. That's we monitor conversion to see if people actually click and look at those things. We had to use some stock photography, and we used some real photography through this just initially until we get all the pictures loaded. And we have to basically create the feeling of a site that is hip, innovative, trendy, feels good, looks good, good color palette. It's a vibrant color palette to show the vibrance of the school, the vibrance of the learning and curriculum. We have a brand guide that we actually are still working on and have to deliver, which shows how students and teachers and everyone can use the logo. If you were to have it on your shirt, what would that look like? I just walked in and there's forms out front, and this is like a designer's nightmare, where the logo is stretched non-proportionally, and I want to shoot myself in the head every time I see that. And I'm just looking at this form while I'm talking to the woman who was out front to find Sophia and Neil, and I didn't say anything, but I'm just throwing up in my mouth while it's happening. So part of my job is to be it's like the brand police. You know, you would never see Target with a blue logo. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. You're never going to see them with an oval logo. It's going to be a circle every time. So those are really important when you're doing something, and how you use a logo and how you look at something. Those are really important because ultimately that's what gets stuck in your head. And the more and more you see something and you assign a value to it, the better off that brand is, especially when it has good brand recognition or equity. So is this all making sense? Am I like, okay. So you could probably tell one of the things I do is I speak for Google, and I have a deck that I do. It's an hour long. It's very rehearsed. It's very formal, and I'm so sick of doing it. I just like to talk with no deck in the background. So I'd like to make this kind of more of an open forum if people want to talk or ask questions, or let me ask you, I don't know, how many seniors are in the room? Okay, and then juniors, right on. Okay, sophomores? All right. So going down to the sophomore level, you guys know, freshmen? Nice, dude. So how many, all right, Freshman, I'll ask you, the one. How, two? You guys know what you want to do yet? Three. What do you want to do? Game programming? Okay. So how about seniors? Give me one senior. Do you guys know what you want to do? Go ahead. Navy, okay. That's not entrepreneurship yet, but it's awesome. I just went on wait, I'll tell you. I can't remember the name of it. This is the coolest thing ever. I was a guest of the commander of the Naval Air Forces on the, wait, where the heck is it? It was an aircraft carrier. No. The Carl Vinson. The USS Carl Vinson. I actually got flown out on an Osprey to the Carl Vinson and landed on it and watched them take planes off and slept overnight on it as a part of the Entrepreneurs Organization, which is like one of the really cool benefits about that program is you get to go and do all these really cool, they call them oils, once in a lifetime experiences. And so that was one of the coolest things I've ever done. Those guys are awesome, like awesome. Anyone want to start a company on their own? Anyone thinking about that? Okay. What kind of company? Okay, cool. That's a challenge and good. So when you guys are looking to start a business, I don't know if you realize from an entrepreneurship level, and this might sound really dumb, but they kind of have to make money or you're going to go out of business. And any company can run making money without profit as long as you have cash flow. But who the hell wants to make money without profit? Evidently I do, but the goal is to make profit with what you're doing. And otherwise you're just a never-ending gerbil in a spinning wheel. And if you try to start a business and don't make money, you'll be out pretty quick. It's just a matter of time. It's how long can you last? So when you guys are looking at those types of businesses or even programming and you want to start your own business programming or doing games or whatever it might be, you need to really think about how you're going to make money. And I want to make this clear that it's not about you starting a business, because the people that come to me and ask for jobs, I'm looking at how they think as a business person. Do they understand? Like, so I had a great designer. This guy came out of the Rhode Island School of Design, RISD it's called. It's one of the best design schools like out there. I couldn't get in it. He was amazing, but he would take about 20 hours to design a logo. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry, dude, this isn't school. Like, I can't charge the client for all of this time that you're taking to do this. So at some point you either got to get faster and stay good or go. And those are the hard decisions. So as an employer, you guys are tasked with being really awesome at what you do, but making that company money. Someone has to pay for your time. And I don't think that that's often taught in schools. You don't think about that, because when I was doing even my portfolios, I had freaking weeks to do designs and put them on boards and show them. But in reality, that's not real. I don't have that kind of time. You should have seen these guys beat me up over this website. It has to be done quick. And then you run into issues and challenges that sometimes are not foreseen and you have to overcome. Do you have a question? That's a great question, and it's really difficult in creative, obviously, because it's subjective, right? So if you go down a path that is the wrong path, you have to start over. But so I can tell you from experience. So let's just take a logo, for example. The first thing I'll do to make sure I manage my time effectively is I'll come up with what I think is the amount of time it should take to design this logo. I think it should take 10 hours, let's say. And I'm going to charge, let's say, $250 an hour for my time. So it's $2,500 for that logo. So I know that if I don't talk to the client and know what they like, what they want, what they're trying to be, who they're trying to get to, I'm probably going to spin my wheels a lot in advance. So I automatically assume that 3 of those hours in the beginning is going to be research and talking with the client, understanding what they like, don't like, so that I know once I start the actual design, I'm close, or a lot closer. There's a lot of people too that are very difficult to work with, and you learn to try to ask the right questions when you're doing projects. For example, I would hear a lot of times, I don't know what color I like, but I don't like this color. Okay, there's 16 million colors in the spectrum. That's not going to work for me. You got to nail it down a little closer, because otherwise I'll be spending all day trying to figure out colors. But I actually have a ticker thing that I hit on my computer. It starts timing. I stop it when I leave, start it, so I can keep very close track of time of what I do. It's a service-based business. I have to. There's no choice. I have to know what I'm able to charge people, and I want to be fair about it. And, I don't want to charge them for bathroom trips or lunch. So I make sure that I'm monitoring what I'm doing, and I'm just from experience. And it's really hard from a creative standpoint to answer that, but from experience, I just know that I need to spend more time up front on the research side. I know I'm going to have probably about 3 revisions. That's on average. That even if it's close, the person on the other end wants a tweak, or, oh, can I just see it with this color or this font or whatever? And you want to make those concessions because you want to please people and make them happy. And then at some point you have to say, and anything you guys do, this is final. If you want more work, you have to pay for it. And that's always tough, because money's a hard conversation to have. My son just went and babysat his first job, and he's 13, and it was 3 hours, and he left, and I'm like, cool, what'd you make? I was like, how was it? He was like, I made $20. I'm like, awesome. I'm like, are you stoked with that? 20? And he's like, well, no. I'm like, well, why not? He's like, well, I thought I was going to make more. I'm like, well, what did you think you were going to make? And he said $24. I'm like, all right, why 24? He's like, well, I thought I was going to make $8 an hour. I'm like, okay. I'm like, so why didn't you make 24? It's like, well, because she gave me 20. I'm like, well, why didn't you ask for 24? It's like, well, because I felt bad. So, okay. So now we're getting somewhere here. It's like, you just learned one of the greatest lessons of all time for $4. I learned it for $10,000. So you're a lucky man. Never, ever go into a deal without knowing what you're going to make first. Don't assume what other people are going to pay you. Always set your price and ask for it. So he said, well, how do I do that? Well, I said, you ask. You don't have to be rude. Just say, next time you go babysit for this person, say, hey, last time I was here, I made $20. It was awesome. I love babysitting your kids. It was 3 hours. I really would like to make $8 an hour. Is that okay with you? And I was like, well, what's the worst thing they could say? No. And then they could say, well, how about $7.50? And you could say yes or no. You don't have to accept it. They say no, you say no. It's no big deal. So really always know what you're going into as much as possible, knowing how much time you think it's going to take, and be prepared to go over your time. Be prepared, and be prepared to suck it up and lose money. But always do your best to try to manage the time and money, and always, always ask to be paid, or know what you're getting paid prior to starting. What time is it? 8:30, okay. So, does anyone else have any questions? Go ahead. We didn't even have a name. So no, I knew nothing. We had, you know what I should have brought was, and I apologize for not thinking about this, but the logo studies that we did were all the logos that didn't make it. So there's a bunch that didn't make it. And part of the challenge too with this is we had to do a seal, which I don't know if you guys have seen the seal yet, but there's a seal that's like more of like something that would go on your diploma. And we actually used a lion as a part of that seal to pay homage to Coleman without showing Coleman. And then we have the logo, which can be just the SET. It's not showing up here very well on the screen, but and then how that can be used on, like, let's say a sweatshirt. So if you have a maroon sweatshirt, let's say, that S can't be red or you won't see it. It can't be that maroon color. So you have to show it in reverse. And this is what I talk about with the brand guide. Now, knowing Tom and, those guys, they'll put it in pink or something and just kill me. But, you have to, that's why you have to really say exactly what it's going to be. In this case, with this logo, we just wanted to create 3 letters that was the key, was saying set. Even though it's a school for entrepreneurship and technology, you wanted to say set because all the campaigns could revolve around being set for life. And so they had to be those 3 letters rather than just, like, let's say the school for entrepreneurship and technology and a lion. So that's why we did what we would call a type mark, type treatment. And then we just modified the E to be more, to flow with the S and show more forward movement and kind of feeling of technology. And that's where we went with it. But there were no ideas in advance. We just ended up showing this, and they just really liked where it was going, and we made it happen. Yes. Metaphor meaning, do a little more detail on that. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, so anytime you're doing a mark, you're shooting for that metaphor, memorable moment. I would say I joke with clients quite a lot where it's like, look, if you have a $50 million budget, I can make anything stick. That's easy. It doesn't matter. Like the Nike swoosh, right? If you didn't know Nike and they hadn't been around forever and you hadn't seen that a million times, you wouldn't maybe know what that meant. And some brands have metaphors like Target, and some don't. But ultimately, the goal is to create something simple that will stick and then, again, can be explained. There has to be usually an explanation behind it, or else it won't be able to ultimately stand in the consumer's mind. Do you know what a core purpose is, by the way? Let me tell you what a core purpose is. So a core purpose in business is what that business does if it wasn't making money. Sounds simple, right? It's the hardest thing possible to come up with. So let me give you some examples of some really cool core purposes in companies. So if these companies weren't making money, this is what they would have to do. So Disney's core purpose, make people happy. 3M's core purpose. 3M, they make all the tapes and the sticky notes. Solving ordinary problems innovatively. So that means everything they do has to do that. Nike's core purpose. Experiencing the emotion of winning and crushing your competition. So you wonder why you see a Nike commercial and there's a dude crushing someone on a football field, or someone scoring a goal, or woman, man, it doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with selling shoes or clothes. That has nothing to do with it. So they're trying to create the feeling for that, to that individual, that resonates, that when I buy Nike, I'm experiencing the emotion of winning and crushing your competition. So all of that kind of, I know it's very subliminal, and it kind of might be like BS because you didn't know it, or it feels like that sometimes. But if you think of your business like that, it really helps, or in whatever you're doing, if you're trying to think about as a core purpose is, who are you? What are your values as a person? Live your core purpose, and everything will automatically flow and and work. If Nike were to not do that, or to deliver some, something that was different, or Under Armour, whatever, it doesn't matter what the brand is, you'll go, that seems off-brand to me. Something's wrong here. If you saw a blue Target logo, you'd be like, something's wrong. Like, what happened? So those are a lot of things. So as a brand and digital marketing agency, that's what we're looking at with the companies that we're working with. Yes, in the back. I have no idea why they would do that. I really don't. And I mean, I don't know if it's hurting their brand, if it's a one-time type of thing, and maybe there's a story behind it that we're unaware of. But I know that if I was looking at that, I would be like, something's wrong. It won't register the same way. It's like the bizarro world, Like I really don't have an answer for that, other than they're trying to do just something really different and appeal to maybe a segment that wants to be different and show that their logo's backwards, But that's really, I wouldn't say that it's hurting their brand. I just say it's an odd choice. It doesn't really match. Guys, I really think that, I love the concept of what this school is about, from what I can understand of it. And this site, it's just a website, and it's just to create the perception to the parents and an easy place for them to see, okay, here's where we can find the stuff that's going on for the school. But as a prospective student parent, here's what this school's about. Here's the staff. Here's the classrooms. Here's the structure. Here's what it is. That makes a difference versus going to Joe Schmo High School. It doesn't really matter. But I love the concept that it's about entrepreneurship and just thinking differently. So really, as you guys come into your careers and thinking about what you guys are up to, just really think about your personal brand. You guys are, I feel bad for you for social media right now. The stuff I did as a kid, if that was all in pictures in the real world, I'd be in big trouble. Be your brand. Be careful with what you're putting out in the real world, because it stays there forever. Those pictures, videos, whatever you're doing, never leave. The first thing I do when someone applies for a job for me is I look up their Facebook, see if they're taking bong hits or something on, I look up LinkedIn. I looked up everything about them, and I can find it just like that. I can find everything. If they're lying to me, I can figure it out super quick. So just really be careful as you're going out there now and starting to, do great things, of how you create your personal brand. Your personal brand of who you are and how you're perceived is the most important thing. And if I perceive you as having integrity and being intelligent and knowing what you're about, then you're winning. So be careful with those things. Enjoy learning and getting through school. And go ahead. Well, I would ask about it. It would be a curious thing, and it wouldn't be about. I'm less worried about if you don't have a Facebook account or a Twitter account. I really don't care as much as just having connections. So one thing that's interesting about social and really important in business is relationships. It's the most important thing, actually. So I've done. We had a company called Lampkin Golf Grips. They just make golf grips for clubs. We created a new brand and website for them. They were selling them like hotcakes on the website. It was going really well. We felt great about it. The client was really happy. Our connection left. Took another job. The company brought in a new VP of marketing. What happened? We were fired. Why were we fired? We were doing great. Well, she had a relationship with another person at another agency that she liked working with. So there's a quote by Robert Solomon that says, "Great creative does not create great relationships. Great relationships create great creative. So the relationship is everything. So your connections in the real world and in social just show that, oh wow, this person's connected, they're well connected, they have relationships, they can maintain relationships. That's how I would look at it from that side of it, because if there's, there's introverts and extroverts, and it depends on also the type of position. To answer your question even better, if you're applying for a sales job, no, because you got to really have a lot of, be all over. If you're planning to be a programmer sitting at a computer with earphones on, then I don't care as much, right? Yes. Yeah, that's you. Got it. Well, not if you're starting a company, it's not. So you can get that out of your head right now. So, because guess what? You better be a real good salesperson, because that's as you build a business and you start programming, it's all about how you can sell your capabilities. There's another great quote that I love, and I don't know. My Uncle Joe said it. I don't think he originated it, but vision without action is a daydream. Action without vision is a nightmare. Do you guys get that? Vision without action is a daydream. Action without vision is a nightmare. Why do I say that twice? Because my career oftentimes has been action without vision. I've just ran down a path and tried to do something and risk it and lost because I really didn't know what my vision was. Once you have the vision, you can make the right plans and create the right foundation to create action appropriate to that vision, and you'll get better results. Any more questions? Because I need coffee desperately. No? Good? All right. Great meeting you guys. I hope you got to learn a little something anyway.
Well, before you go, let's just go over some of the central tenets that we talk about in our own classrooms. And that is about vision, relationships, and passion. And Les has really underscored all of those things that you need to be successful. So let's remember that as we're walking out. Thank you so much for your time.